Welcome to the Switch Style Podcast, where we encourage you to think beyond what you hear. I'm your host, and I go by the name of Smooth. And audience, welcome back to the podcast. This is actually episode 63. And before we go into anything, I just want to thank everybody who's listening right now. If you've never heard me or any of the podcasts before, thank you for being here. You could be anywhere else, but you're here with me listening right now, and I appreciate that. And also, before we start, I do want to let you guys know, please go follow us on iTunes, Google Play Music, SoundCloud, and YouTube. You can find the podcast on all of those platforms. And also follow me on Twitter at Jack's Journal. And also, you can find the podcast and my written reviews at jacksjournal.com. And one more thing before we get started, I do want to give a special shout out to Zoe Timms of New Zealand. Zoe is a big fan of the podcast. She's listened to us for a long time, and I want to let you guys know you can follow Zoe on Twitter at Zoe_Timms. That's ZOE_TIMS on Twitter. And Zoe she's also a singer as well, so go follow her YouTube page. She does a lot of covers. You can follow her on her YouTube page. It's Zoe Timms, ZOETIMS. So go follow Zoe. And Zoe, thank you for listening. As always, we appreciate it. She hit us up on Twitter and asked us to review this one album specifically. And audience, well, you don't know, but I'll let you guys know. We're actually I'll update the Billboard charts for you all. I'll let you know what's coming out this Friday, June 16th. And last but not least, I'll give you my take on Ctrl by SZA. And SZA is a fairly new artist. She's been around for a few years, but she hasn't quite hit the mainstream yet. So, and we're going to talk about it in a second. But before we jump into all of that, let's go ahead and update the charts, and I'll let you guys know what's coming out this Friday, June 16th. So let's go ahead and get into it. So on the charts, pop star Halsey, she crowns the Billboard 200 as her sophomore effort. Hopeless Found Kingdom tops the chart with 106,000 units. 76,000 of those were traditional album sales. And to note, this is really interesting. Halsey is the first woman to top the Billboard 200 in 2017. Lady Gaga was actually the last woman to top the chart with her 2016 album Joanne 7 months ago. And if you didn't hear Lady Gaga's Joanne album, we actually reviewed that one last year in October, so you can go back and check that one out. I forgot what number episode it is, but just look through the archive shows and you'll find it if you want to catch up on that. That's interesting though. She's the first woman in 2017 to have the number one album in the country, so congrats to her. And country crooner Luke Combs lands at number 5 with his debut album This One's For You, which earned 43,000 units. 35,000 of those were traditional album sales. And last but not least, alternative rockers All Time Low, they bow at number 9 with Last Young Renegade, which earned 33,000 units. 30,000 of those were traditional album sales. So congrats to Halsey, Luke Combs, and All Time Low. And on the Hot 100, no surprise here, Luis Fonsi, Daddy Yankee, and Justin Bieber, they earned a 5th week at number 1 with Despacito. So congrats to them, and Justin Bieber, he keeps it rolling. But congrats again to Halsey, Luke Combs, All Time Low, Luis Fonsi, Daddy Yankee, and Justin Bieber. They all made waves and they sit atop the Billboard charts this week. So congrats to them. So let's go ahead and jump to what's new. So this Friday, June 16th, 2017, look out for new releases from Lorde. The pop star, she's back with her sophomore album, Melodrama. Big Boi of Outkast, he returns with his latest effort, Boomiverse. And last but not least, pop rockers Nickelback. They're back with their latest album, Feed the Machine. So we got a pretty decent lineup. I'm excited about a couple of those, and I might even talk about them in the coming weeks. But again, look out for Lorde's new album, Melodrama. Big Boi, he's back with the Boomiverse, and Nickelback, they're back with Feed the Machine. So let's actually get into the reason why most of you are here. We're actually going to review SZA's debut album, and it's titled Ctrl. And it doesn't look like Janet Jackson's Ctrl album, it's actually spelled CTRL. It's spelled like the key on the keyboard, which is pretty unique. And if you hadn't seen the album cover, it's a really nice album cover. She's sitting in a field of grass, and behind her are old analog monitors, old outdated computers that probably don't even work. So we'll go ahead and jump into it, because I know this is what most of you, if you're listening right now, this is probably why you came here. And if you haven't heard any of my reviews or takes before, I'd just like to tell you a little bit about the artist. Just in case you don't know who SZA is, I just want to bring you up to speed and just to let you know where she's from, where she's currently in her career, and eventually what we expect from her later down the road. So here we go. SZA, her real name is Solana Rowe. She was born November 8th, 1990 in St. Louis, Missouri, but she later moved to Maplewood, New Jersey. She hit the scene in 2012 with her first EP, See SZA Run, and another EP simply titled S, followed in 2013. And just a quick fact for you, I'm not overly familiar with it myself, but SZA's name is derived from the Supreme Alphabet. And SZA, her father is an Orthodox Muslim, and the Supreme Alphabet is where she got her name. S means something specifically, Z and A, they all have a specific meaning. So that's where she got her name from, and whenever you get a chance, actually look it up. It's really interesting, the way that she came up with her name. And in a way, if you're interested, SZA also sounds like RZA and SZA of the Wu-Tang Clan, and she did mention that she was inspired by the Wu-Tang Clan as well. She actually listened to a lot of records. Her sister was the one that put her onto Wu-Tang Clan, so go check that out. Go discover actually how she came up with her name, which is really interesting. So that same year in 2013, she signed with Top Dog Entertainment after a chance meeting with co-president Terrence Punch Henderson. And Top Dog Entertainment, it might sound familiar to you guys. Top Dog Entertainment, they house the rap superstars Kendrick Lamar, Schoolboy Q, Ab-Soul, Isaiah Rashad. They're also on the label as well. And hopefully you know Kendrick Lamar. He's been everywhere with the hit single Humble, and his latest album, Damn, topped the charts and is still doing really well. And also, I talked about Damn earlier this year, one of the better albums I've heard this year. But back to SZA. She gained more attention with her breakthrough EP titled Z in 2014. But in recent years, she's made a couple of high-profile appearances on Schoolboy Q's Oxymoron and Rihanna's Anti. And she also co-wrote Nicki Minaj's Feeling Myself, which featured Beyonce. So go check that out. SZA, we might not know her personally. She's not as huge of a star as she will become, but she's been around for 5 years or more. So she's new to us, but not to a lot of people. So I'll go ahead and give you guys my take on SZA's first studio album, her debut album, Ctrl. So here we go. Why is it so hard to be honest? It's a question we all ask ourselves at some point. Depending on the circumstances, the truth can be difficult to reveal, but quite often we either don't know or forget the respect and credibility that comes with it. Many musical acts build guarded careers, restricting their access to those who seem most interested. It's unfortunate because it establishes a permanent disconnect with an artist and their fans. Just think about it. If you really like someone, you want to know more about them. It brings you closer to that person and most importantly creates a bond that seldom wavers. SZA, the New Jersey native by way of St. Louis, Missouri, and undisputed leader of Top Dog Entertainment's R&B division, is an artist who's fully transparent in her music, and it shows on her official debut album, Ctrl. During the past 5 years and possibly longer, she's honed her considerable skill set through a succession of EPs, high-profile features, and even scored a writer's credit on Nicki Minaj's Beyonce-assisted Feeling Myself. SZA, whose real name is Solana Rowe, finally got her chance and fully takes advantage on Ctrl. Right away, she draws comparisons to the late Amy Winehouse with her jazz-inflected vocal on the vengeful Supermodel. SZA then pens an open letter to a two-time boyfriend informing him of her departure and admitting to secretly banging his homeboy while he was in Las Vegas on Valentine's Day. Houston rapper Travis Scott lends a hand on the first-rate Love Galore. She's fed up because there is clearly a lack of love, but it surely is abundantly enjoyable for us. And just to be honest, just disclosure, Love Galore is my favorite record on the album. Doves in the Wind and all of its woozy boom-bap brilliance is controversial from the very beginning. The opening line, and audience forgive me, if you got some kids around, you might have to close their ears for a second. But on the opening line, she says, "Real niggas do not deserve pussy." And it's sure to ruffle some feathers, and she knew it would, so she immediately clarified the lyric in the following lines and added a fitting Forrest Gump reference as further evidence. Her TDE label mate and rap superstar Kendrick Lamar supports on the track with an excellent vagina monologue covering the dangers, consequences, and lengths that men will go to for it. The unapologetic Drew Barrymore borrows its namesake from the popular actress and will surely appeal to a more diverse demographic, but it's arguably the most down-in-the-dumps record on an album where many exist. SZA continually apologizes throughout the second verse for not possessing the assets needed to secure his attention and gives the album's most heartbreaking verse. "I'm so lonely, I forget what I'm worth." Prom is excellent inter-decade pop, and The Weeknd is promiscuously slick, Devontae Swing, and R. Kelly-inspired 90s R&B. And audience, if you don't know, I'm sure you guys know R. Kelly, but if you don't know Devontae Swing, go listen to Jodeci. Devontae Swing produced just about everything that Jodeci did, and he was also a part of the group. He was one of the 4 group members of Jodeci, and just another fact, Devontae Swing was also credited with discovering Missy Elliott and Timbaland. He had Genuine in his camp, Playa. He was credited with discovering a lot of artists. So go check out Devontae Swing and Jodeci, and you guys know who R. Kelly is. But back to SZA. The record Go Gina, for me, it's a percussion wonderland, and it's by far easier than the person who inspired the line, "Picking up a penny with a press on is easier than holding you down." And if you're wondering, just ask any female who knows what SZA's talking about. They can verify the metaphor. And me personally, just another aside, I had to go ask a few of my lady friends as well about press-ons and if they could actually pick up coins with them. That was just a funny line to me. But back to SZA. Broken Clocks. It's brooding, but the constant hi-hats are enough to keep it in operating function as she moves forward and seeks progression professionally and personally. Underrated R&B luminary James Fauntleroy shows up on the all-too-short but irresistible Wavy. SZA just wants to be the apple of her father's eye, the girl who gets to meet mama, and one who's accepted by her beaux fellas on Normal Girl. 20-something is just as stripped down and personal as the album's lead-off track. She ponders living life in her 20s and is in rare poetic form. Throughout, the soon-to-be 27-year-old questions her lonesome relationship status and even acknowledges to not having anything, including a cell phone, in her name. Limiting SZA to just another star in a galaxy of many would be a gross injustice. It is only the beginning, but Ctrl is a pleasing but still scattered effort. She displays a diverse range of musical influences and even owns rare malleable vocal gifts. And when I say malleable, meaning that she could mold her voice to fit whatever the track may be. If it's a jazz-like track, she could sing in a more jazz-like vocal. If it's a pop track, she could sound more like a pop star. If it's an R&B track, she could do that. Whatever the case may be, she can shape her voice to fit, to match whatever the track sounds like. I mean, and it's one of my favorite things about SZA, because she really sounds like, you can make the argument that she sounds like a different person on every track of the album. But like I was saying earlier, SZA, she's more than capable of sounding different on each and every one of her records, and honestly, she nearly pulls it off. The project as a whole may produce mixed results, but in my opinion, I think it's more beneficial than detrimental, meaning that her ability to sound different in so many ways, it's more so helpful to her than it hurts her, in my opinion. But Ctrl, it's a completely cohesive effort and could eventually rank among R&B's great debuts as time progresses. Ultimately, SZA wants more control of her life, as we all do. She's not quite there yet, but I bet you this album sure will change that. So there you go, audience. That's my take on SZA's debut album titled Control, and that's not spelled out fully. It's CTRL, like the command button on the keyboard. And honestly, this is probably my favorite R&B record of the year. I think R&B has been pretty dry for the most part of the year. There's been some albums that I did like, mainly Sampha's album. I like LaToya Luckett's album. I'm trying to think of what else came out R&B wise, but those were probably two and maybe a couple more that I did like. But SZA stands out, is probably the best right now, and I know we still have 6 months to go for the year, but I absolutely love SZA's album. I watched a lot of interviews on SZA. She's an amazing personality. I think, audience, if you haven't seen any of her interviews, please go check her out. You would definitely love her. She's very likable. She's very personable. If you watch her interviews, you would immediately fall in love with who she is. And, her interviews, I love that she actually did press. Because she actually, on some of the interviews, and mainly the Breakfast Club's interview, she sits and she breaks down most of the songs, and it's a very personal album, and I love it. I can't wait till the physical CD drops so I can buy it myself. But if you're listening right now, I highly recommend this album. This is probably my highest rated R&B album this year. I'm actually going to give it 4 out of 5 stars. I love just about every record on the album, but mainly the ones that I love the most are Love Galore, Doves in the Wind, Drew Barrymore, The Weeknd, Go Gina, Broken Clocks, Supermodel, 20-something. I mean, that's nearly the entire album, so go get it. I mean, it's one you need to have in your collection. I'm excited for SZA and her future. I don't think I've been this excited about an R&B artist in a while. So, if you're out there listening, definitely go get it. SZA is an amazing writer. She has great interpretive gifts. And I'm really excited about SZA. I can't wait to see how she grows and develops over the years. So thank you, SZA, for putting out an amazing album. And thank you, everybody who's out there listening. I sincerely appreciate it. You could be anywhere else listening or watching Netflix, Hulu, whatever you're doing, or outside, whatever you want to do, you could be doing it. But you're right here listening to me, so I sincerely appreciate it. And again, before I go, remember, go subscribe to the podcast on iTunes, Google Play Music, SoundCloud, and YouTube. I'm on all of those platforms, and you can also find the podcast and my written reviews at jacksjournal.com. That's JACS journal.com. The podcast and this take will be up. But thank you guys for listening. And Zoe, again, thank you. It's always great when we get to talk and you tell us about new music, so we appreciate that. But thank you again, audience. I appreciate you all listening, and I'll see you guys next time. Peace.